project. She didn't know 100% what they were going to be doing. It was her uncle that was organizing it, and he had done like 15 different mission trips before, et cetera. So the end of the deadline to sign up was like the end of the month in January. So I checked in with him to get some information, and I sent Jim a message, and I said, hey, because it was construction. It was going to be a construction project. They were building a church, and so I asked Jim, I said, hey, Jim, you want to go on a mission trip to Africa? And he goes, well, if you're going. And so I said, yeah, I'm going. And so then the next day at work, I asked Johanna, because we had a great time in December before in New York. She was my partner in crime there. And anyway, and she goes, well, let me ask my husband, because she'd never done a mission. None of us, totally new to mission trips. So she asked her husband, and he had done lots of mission trips in the past, so he was happy to let her be able to experience a mission trip. So that's what got us started. Again, it was a church building project. They split us up into 5 groups to go to 5 different churches in the evening to do evangelistic meetings, which Jim was one of the speakers for that. And we'll talk here later on about our 5 churches that we went to. We were all 3 at different churches. Everybody else that was friends and family got to stay together, but somehow all 3 of us was totally split up. And then at those evangelistic meetings, we did do health talks. And Johanna, I put them all together, the New Start. So we did 8 evangelistic meetings. So we did 8 health talks, New Start. There's 8. So we did nutrition, exercise, such every night, 10 minutes or so. And then they also had a vacation Bible school. So we had a lot of women that worked together and organized vacation Bible school during the evangelistic meetings. And then at the last minute, they did add medical, because with me coming on as a doctor, and then Jeannie, my friend that I heard about it from, is a nurse practitioner, and then Johanna signed on as a nurse. And then another doctor signed on at the end. So we ended up with 2 doctors, a nurse practitioner, Johanna's an RN, and then the nurse practitioner's husband was a massage therapist, so he knew how to do blood pressures and things like that as well. And then probably, I think, the highlight of our mission trip was the eye clinic, which we'll talk about a little bit more. We had somebody come that knew how to do really good eye exams and stuff, so that was added on kind of all last minute sort of thing. A lot of people ask us what are the requirements to go. Of course, every country is going to be different, but you do have to have a passport, so that was the biggest thing for these 2. They didn't have passports, and to get those all set up, and neither one of them, I think, even had their birth certificates. So I think they had to get their birth certificates to even get their passports. Oh, you did have yours. Okay, he did.
I had to get mine.
Yeah. And then it was recommended that you get the typhoid vaccine and malaria prophylaxis. We all 3 ultimately ended up doing the typhoid vaccine, but we also bought the life straw drinking things, and so how much we needed it, but better safe than sorry, I guess, on that. And then malaria, we did not. Us 3 did not do the malaria prophylaxis, mainly because it was wintertime there, so the risk for malaria was extremely low. And then when we did go up the last few days to the northern part of the country, which was a little more humid, more higher risk, we just bought those, how do you say that word?
Wristband.
Yeah, but that has this Australia, what's that?
Oil
In it that
repellent.
keeps the repellent against the mosquitoes, that natural repellent. Jim hated the smell, so he put his on this.
Mine was on my ankle.
He hated it. So we left Tuesday afternoon. So Johanna and I actually worked a few hours that morning in West Plains. We zoomed up and met Jim toward my house, exchanged cars real quick, and then zoomed up to St. Louis to catch a flight around 1, 2, or was it 3.5? No, it was 5 in the evening. But anyway,
5, yeah.
we were rushing that whole day, packing it in. And then we flew from St. Louis to Atlanta. So in St. Louis, we met the nurse practitioner, her husband and son, teenage son that went. You got those pictures? Now this is in
Atlanta.
This is in Atlanta. So in Atlanta, we met
Your buddy.
How God
My buddy,
challenged her
my
passion.
challenge for the
Patience.
week. So if you ever hear me say Dave and roll my eyes, Dave was my patience tester for the whole week. So I was stuck with Dave all week, and let's just say our personalities did not match.
As opposed to David, who she would get along with very well over here.
Yeah.
This Dave was a little bit different.
Johanna saved his life many a times, believe me. The Lord was testing my patience that week.
But it seemed like we were always in a hurry to get to our gate, and then we would sit and wait. And then in this picture, we got on the plane and we sat for 16 hours. Had to
16
go to
flights.
Africa.
Yeah.
Our flight, yeah.
For flight. So it was a long flight, but it was overnight. I didn't really mind it. We spent the first couple hours, we might have watched a movie or two. We ate. They fed us well on all the airplanes, even if you were vegetarian or vegan. And they had that option for us, and they gave us pillows and towels. And so around 11 o'clock-ish or whatever, we decided to go to bed and go to sleep anyway, and slept, and then woke up about the time to get up. And you didn't sleep? Oh, I slept well. I normally cannot either, but this time I did, maybe with a little help. Maybe a little pharmaceutical help, but it worked out great for us, for me, and Johanna slept well. And then we went to Johannesburg the first night, our group that went from Atlanta, and this is the hotel we stayed at there, and it was a nice little hotel. Our particular room, I don't know that we got a picture of our room, but we had a double bed and then a single bed, I think it was.
2 singles and a double.
2 singles and a double. So Johanna and I sat in the double, and Jim got one of the singles, and that's the first night. And then they had breakfast for us, and then we got on the plane to head to Harare. The whole group ended up meeting in Harare, but ours was the first airplane. It was only supposed to be like an hour and a half wait for the next one, but it was at least 3 hours standing
you're
and
being
sitting there.
generous.
We was
It was a
there a
long way.
long time at the airport waiting for the next group. And then we got on,
We got 2.
so we were in Zimbabwe at Harare. This is the Harare airport
was
that
our
we're
wait.
waiting. Yeah.
The
this
ways
is-
we entertained ourselves
Yeah.
for 3 hours.
You can tell the different characters.
Yeah.
I'm making friends. She's battling.
Yeah. Well, I was wrestling the rhino. That was our only rhino we got to see. We didn't get to see one on the safari. And then once the whole group got there, we loaded onto this bus. So that's the whole group. We had people from Seattle, Washington, Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, Iowa. I mean, so all over the United States, we had people
And
that was with our group.
we were so impressed with the highways.
Yeah.
This is the good one.
If
Yeah.
you think the roads in the Ozarks are bad, you have no idea.
That's a good one. We got about 100 miles total on our trip of good roads.
Yeah.
But then there's this road.
Holes big enough to
15
swallow a tire.
hours on this road.
This is a major highway.
Yes. This is the road from Mushvigo to Victoria Falls.
No, this
Oh,
was,
no?
this was part of the road from Harare to Mushvingo.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so this is still the good roads.
It got worse on the way back.
Yeah. This is still the good roads. Yeah. We arrived then Thursday night, pretty late, 11 o'clock-ish, probably, to our hotel. This particular hotel is owned by an Adventist, and they had us split up in rooms. Now, this first room there with like the 3 beds that you see, twin beds, that was kind of the men's room. There was how many, 7 or 8 of you in there?
There was 5.
Oh, okay.
But there was 2 ante-rooms beside this, but 3 of us got this room. 2 of us were supposed to get a room by ourselves with 2 beds, but a young one in his 20s, he hurried up in there and got that. The other room, another young one in his 20s got there that. So here was
No respect for the elders.
2 of us over 60 and one that was 15. And we kept him in the middle to keep an eye on him. But then you could see the bathroom facilities. You see that picture on the top center? That's the men's bathroom facilities that we got to use. You have the toilet, the shower, and that black thing in the corner is
Trash
a barrel of water, because water is sometimes not on. And so if you wanted to shower, you had to get a bucket and get water out of the barrel and take your
Or
clean
to
it.
flush your toilet.
And to flush your toilet and
Yeah, so
And-
we lose water probably at least 2 hours a day.
at least,
Yeah. So
and
I mean,
electricity for longer than that.
Yeah, they kind of went hand in hand. Yeah. Now Johanna and I had a private room to ourselves that had kind of a twin bed and a full-size bed, but the twin bed was like a rock. So Johanna and I slept together on the full-size bed, and we had our own private bathroom. So that was nice. But our bathroom never, ever, ever had hot water.
Not once.
Not once.
I never had hot water. So that was just the eating. We got shopping, and then the food preparation and serving, and then we'd have our meals together there.
So that bottom right there is our meeting room. That's where we ate, had all of our meals. And actually the fresh fruits and vegetables there were phenomenal. Phenomenal. Yeah, really, really. And so this picture here, the lady with the headband, that is the owner, okay? The lady on the other far side is her sister, and the one right next to me in the middle is Dorothy, the daughter. And Dorothy, the first day, kind of took us on a walking tour of the town around, showing us where everything was. Took us to the pharmacy so we could buy a glucometer and some strips and oximeter. I couldn't find my pulse ox before we left, so we bought one of those. But I mean, it was dirt cheap there.
Yeah.
And so was the glucometer. In fact, I think we got the glucometer free because we bought the strips. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Much cheaper there than it is here.
yes, much cheaper. And she knows because her daughters are she has 2 daughters that are diabetic. And then since we went to 5 different churches, we had drivers that would take us around. So the lady in the middle in this picture was my driver to my church, the Rodine Church. And I'm just going to model. She gave me this skirt, which is the Zimbabwe colors, the red, yellow, green, and black. And this is the Zimbabwe bird on here, so you can look at it later up close. I can get to model my skirt she gave me. And the lady in green, again, is the owner of the facility. Again, we were there in the winter time, so it was cold for me in the evenings, but it must have been, they wore like winter coats. Even
Heavy
during the
winter
day,
coats, yeah.
and it was 70 degrees, 68 during the day, and they're wearing like what we would wear in February. But every night they would put a bonfire out for us, which I enjoyed.
We did enjoy it.
Yeah, I put my feet in there and thawed them out every night. And somebody found some sugar cane, and we got to taste that fresh and eat it. Group of us there. So this is the medicine that I took. These are the prescription drugs that I took. This was donated by this lady from Pathways to Health. Is anybody familiar with Adventist Pathways to Health? They do it once a year. It is like a mobile hospital. This year they did it in St. Louis, and this is their leftover medicines that they donated to us to take. So I had 2 full suitcases of medicine. And then when I posted this on Facebook, when I used to live in Berryville, I don't know if any of you remember, I used to live in Berryville, one of the pharmacies there saw my post on Facebook, and they donated some more medicine. So we got there, I said, very late Thursday night. And so Friday, we went to bed, and Friday we organized, because everybody was allowed to take 2 large carry-on bags. And so we had lots and lots of stuff to organize. So we had to organize our vacation Bible school stuff, our medical supply stuff, and so that's what we did Friday.
Clothing,
Clothing.
toys, games for the kids, books, things like that.
Just giveaways. toothbrushes, toothpaste, soaps.
Eyeglasses.
And we'll talk more about the eyeglasses, but we gave away tons of reading glasses there. I'm not for sure what the ministers did that day. They were not really around.
Looking at.
Well, as
she's
part of
looking
the
at him.
construction team, we went to the construction site
Okay.
and got to see it. And we'll have pictures of it later, but when we got there, there was the trenches for the footing was in the ground, nothing in there, just the trenches. And the metal building where they were having church, and that was all that was on this site when we got there Friday afternoon.
Okay, I didn't know you
But
guys
it
had visited there
changed,
Friday.
it changed by the time we got there Sunday morning.
Okay. And so Friday evening, after we did our organization and stuff, we ended Friday and started Sabbath with an agape feast and communion, which was very nice. This lady in the bottom right here in the blue, she is the other physician there.
You'll see her later.
Yeah. So that gets us to Sabbath afternoon.
No, that's Sabbath morning.
Well, yes, Sabbath morning. And we went to our 5 different churches. So we were split up, so we can each kind of talk about that. I'll let Jim talk first. I think no, that's not your church, is it?
No, that's 3 different congregations, 3 different churches. I'm the church bottom left. We had a building.
Were you in one of those?
No.
And one of them
The
was,
top one, I think, is where the school is at.
it's where the school is at.
Yes. So it's more or less outdoors. It's just kind of a metal pavilion kind of thing.
And I wish I would have included the pews.
They were like benches with metal legs,
Metal
very
legs,
thin.
two boards across,
Yes.
1 board across for the back, and they would sit there for hours. But one thing that impressed me in the church service is they know how to sing.
Yeah.
They know
Truly praise the Lord.
This is,
Christopher,
your
can you
church?
turn us up on the
no,
audio?
that's not my church.
Is this your church?
Yes.
Yeah, they did not sing like they were at a funeral like we tend to. My church it's sad. It's embarrassing.
There we go.
And look at those children, how well behaved those children are. Now, you guys as kids are very well behaved here, but my church, not so much. I mean, the children here were amazing for hours, well behaved. Yeah.
This is my church, the tent building. This is the site where we were building a new church, and it would be incredible. On the weeknights, I would get there, and the lights wouldn't even be on, and there's nobody in the building. The pews are all over the place, and then never started on time, always about 10 or 15 minutes late.
Always.
But we would have, on the weekdays, about 100 people, or, I mean, I'm doing conservative guessing. Like, it was crazy how many people would show up.
Now, that tent was not there at 2 o'clock Friday afternoon, but it was there Sabbath morning for them to have worship.
So again, this is the construction site. This mission trip was started planning a year before. And we went, and they had 50 members at the time that they were planning the church building for, and now they had 200, I think.
200.
So evangelism is not an issue with them.
So here you have a couple, you have the one we saw earlier, the church that had the metal sides on there. Then you have one that has the same type roof, a metal roof, but it's all open.
That's
setting-
actually in the back of where our tent was.
Yep.
Behind this is the building site, but they had just a small covered area.
But that's the area that they used to meet in all the time before we got there. And then the bottom one is your tent area, I think,
Yes.
is it?
Yeah.
So
And then-
we went to church, had a wonderful service, went back to the hotel, had a meal with the group. And then the churches wanted us to go out because each of these churches, actually the main church of districts, she says 5 churches, but that was 5 church districts. The church district I went to had 3 churches included in it, and a total of about 1,200 membership in the membership. Some of these districts range from 1,000 to 2,000 members in their district or in that district. But each church, like the church that I went to, and what we went to later was the Rojeku, they had a membership of 600 and a normal attendance of somewhere around 150 to 200. So that was in the afternoon. This is 2 o'clock, 2:30 in the
Because
afternoon.
we were running late. Our group was running late.
Do you see how many people? Can you see the number of heads in there?
And this is.
Just about everybody who came to church was there for us at 2:30 in the afternoon.
And these churches they're not in different cities. All these churches and these districts, they're all within this one city, within a few miles of each other.
So Mashpego has 20 churches in the district, okay? 5 in the city itself, but 20 within the district. And we were working within the district. So we went to 5 of the 20 in the district. And then this is a population of about 100,000. So basically, about 2/3 the size of Springfield, they have 20 churches. Pretty impressive and growing, as I mentioned earlier. And their school,
That's not there. This
Yes,
is our
okay.
trip around.
Okay, all right. So this is Hillview. This is where she was at.
So you can see kind of in the top picture all the rocks and the dirt and the gravel and stuff. That was delivered, and the tent, that was all delivered after 2 o'clock. That's where they had church service. And then, so we went there, and we were there got there about 3:30,
Yeah.
3:30. And still, you can see the people are there.
Another thing I want to make a comment before we went and visited all these. After we did church, we went back to our hotel, ate, and then we was going to visit these other churches. We changed clothes. Some of us did. I just got to throw this in. We are slobs in America, and we disrespect the Sabbath. Jim asked one of the guys, well, should I change clothes or stay in my suit? And what was his answer?
Oh, go casual.
No, the native that you asked, not
No,
one of our
No,
ministers.
no, that's going on the preaching and stuff. I'll get into that later.
Yeah. So, but one of the native, and we'll go into that. But one of the natives says it's still Sabbath, isn't it? So you still honor the Sabbath in your
Yes.
dress. And half of our people, including some of our pastors, and he may talk about it more, dress like slobs to go visit the other churches. It was embarrassing. Just going to say. This is another church. I went at that. This is the one by the school.
That's the one by the school.
Yes.
This is the church. I don't know if I've got pictures of the school, but the school has 1,075 students.
I sent you pictures of the school.
Well,
We didn't get to really organize this week with my husband in the hospital and stuff, but I did get a picture of the school with the principal and counselor. They were very, when we were there, they thought we were like, it was almost like being rock stars. They all wanted pictures with us and stuff, you felt like.
this is the last church
This
we
is
went
right
to, and this is 5 in the afternoon. Church was over at noon. They're still there. And what we found when we came to these different churches, most of them were still singing, or they had a speaker, or they had something going on waiting for us. And I don't know if you can tell the worship times on that one. We could earlier on one of the others. Let me go up. The Sabbath school at 9, main service at 11, lunch at noon, vespers at 1400 or 2 o'clock, and then sunset vespers. So they were there for the day.
Did you guys catch how many students were at the school, attended the school? 1,075 students at their school. Isn't that embarrassing for us? Praise the Lord for them, but how pathetic for us. We don't even have that in an academy.
Now, their tuition was $59,
But dollar to dollar.
but $59 a quarter,
Yeah,
but they earn $2,000 a year.
right.
So $59 is a bunch of money when you're only making $2,000 a year. So we visited all those churches, and then Sunday, my work began. We're starting the construction. So this is what we saw Friday. You see the trenches, all empty.
Hand dug.
And dug just a few days before.
No, it took them months before. If you notice in the picture, the rocks, they're all dug by hand. In some areas with solid rock, and they had these picks that they would chip out by hand. And they would work all day long. And so that's what we saw Friday. And then and I'll get to where we were on Sunday, but I'll show you the process they went through to get their concrete. First, they measure out the sand, then they measure out the gravel, then they measure out the masonry in bags, then they stir all that up. And this is all done on the ground. We said, well, why don't you get a cement truck? Well, a cement truck costs $2,000 just to get the truck. That's not the material. They had lots of volunteer laborers doing this, and this was the way they wanted to do it. So they mixed it up all on the ground. And so once they did that, then you had to get water, and they'd make trenches and get water, and then they'd mix it. And once they got it all mixed up, then it was time to put it out on the footing. Now I wanted to show you this because you saw the picture of what it looked like Friday. Saturday they didn't work, but by Sunday morning at 8 o'clock, a little over a third of the foundation had cement in it. It was done. They showed up after sundown, worked till 4 in the morning. And they doing this work. And when I got there at 8, or we got there at 8, there was some that had gone home at 4, got back up, and was there back on the site at 8 in the morning, ready to work again. And some of these people here are some of those people that worked all night, Saturday night, and are back there Sunday morning.
And these are church members and community members who are volunteering for this.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of them were community members, not even just church members.
So everything that you unload is labor intensive. These bricks are going to be used in walls eventually. These aren't the foundation bricks, but these were used in walls. And so they're hand unloaded and moved and stacked. And while they were doing that, the footings were getting poured and they were getting that done, and then it was time for the bricks. And here's how they unload the bricks. And here's how, that was a guy one of our members moving sand. But there's all the footings that's been poured. Shoveling, mixing, they're still mixing and pouring as bricks are being unloaded. And we moved a lot of brick by hand, but what I was impressed is when we had enough volunteers, and most of these were women, they came and helped too, and then we made a line. But notice on the women's backs, what's on their backs on some of them. You see their babies? They work with their babies on their backs, and they continue to work.
And those babies are so happy there. That's just where they belong, and they're happy.
So they started laying the brick, And this is different than, I felt so out of place because they do everything by hand and their foundations is all 2 rows of bricks. And I'm used to putting up forms or blocks or something, but they do it that way. And here's another assembly line, how they move the bricks. We had lots of, you saw the one truck of bricks. There was another truck that came. So that first truck just did half the walls of the foundation. This is just the foundation. The second truck did some more. And so we moved bricks. And of course, they're happy when they do it. Singing as they work. And the walls were going up. When we left, it was that picture on the left, and I got those in there a little bit too quick. They had the foundation walls, they had some of the backfill, and then they got the slab, and then you see this last picture on there. That's working at night. They work at night because everybody has a job during the day. So while we were there, people took off from the regular job to work on the project. But now that we're gone, they work in the night. They go work all day, then they come to work at night. And we got to meet all kinds of people while we were there.
And I think our report this week, they're going to have the walls done this week. Is that what our last report was? I just looked at yesterday.
They're going to have most of them done, yes.
Yeah. And they need about 2,000 more to finish that.
So some of the people we met up on the way, this gentleman right here, I left him for last. His name is Timpawe Nashi, which is gift of God. To them, in their Shona language, their names mean something. Sort of like the names in Israel all had meaning. His had meaning. He was an interesting gentleman. I like to talk to him. I met one of the pictures before was his son, who has a degree in mining engineering, but could not find a job at this time, so he volunteered. But this gentleman, he came one day and he says, well, I think I'll go to the clinic. And I said, well, I'll go with you. I was getting tired, and there was one other guy that was my age working there, and he was a local. And so I said, okay, I'll go with you. And I said, how far is it? Oh, it's not far.
It wasn't.
Okay, they walk everywhere they go. Okay? He's used to walking. So we get up and walk, and then we start on the way, and I got to thinking, far is a relative term.
It wasn't far.
Okay, it wasn't that far. It was a little over a mile away. Is all. It took about 20, 25 minutes to get there.
And again, that's in another, so we had the clinic in another one of our churches.
And that was another.
So that just shows you how close the churches are and still have 200 members
Or more.
attending.
Yeah. So we worked on that construction, and it was a blessing. The way they sacrificed and the way they worked and the way they got, like the women you saw, they were singing. They always made their work enjoyable, and they kept busy working. But then we came into Tammy and Johanna's area.
So this other lady on the other side is the other family practice doctor, and then myself. And I've got a white coat on. There is one general surgeon for the entire area. So that Mashpingo district of a little over 100K people, one surgeon, and he is an Adventist. His church was my church that I went to, Rodine. They made him an elder, that way he could be off on Sabbath mornings. Otherwise, he would not get Sabbath mornings off. Not that he wouldn't have deserved to have been an elder anyway, but that's part of the reason he became an elder, so he could have Sabbath mornings off. But even with that, if you have an emergency surgery, you have an emergency surgery, right? So that first Sabbath, he was called away for a bowel perforation that he had to take care of. So where I was getting at, and his mother became my Zimbabwe mother, and she gave me this lab coat. She very much thought I needed to be wearing a lab coat. Yes. And she sent it home with me. She wouldn't let me return it when we left. So this is the gates outside of the clinic. We opened at 8, and people started lining up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Yes. And I'll kind of let Johanna talk because she's the one that kind of corralled them in.
So we set up inside. We had like different queues. They had to fill out a card with, they had a health number, which is kind of like our Social Security number. They had a book that had all of their health records in it. And I mean, if a doctor wrote you a prescription, they just hand wrote it in that book, and you took that book to a pharmacy, and they would fill it and sign off on it or stamp it. These
Yeah, it was like like those journal books, what do they call them?
composition book,
Composition books.
or a half a composition book. I mean, I saw people with ones that were torn like in fourths, and that was their book because they couldn't get their own, so they shared with a family member. But they sat in these lines for hours. One of the days we got there, we couldn't even get through the gate because there were so many people lined up. We had to ask them, we sat out there and talked for a while, but it was pretty crazy. The drivers didn't want to drive us in, so we had to get out of the vehicles and kind of walk through.
Again, it was like a rock star trying to get to the concert, It was like, let us through.
So we saw about 200 people a day. I triaged all 200, talking to them about what what were they wanting to be seen for. The gentleman who was a massage therapist, he did all the vitals. He was sitting next to me, and language barrier was a real issue. They could understand a lot of what we said because a lot of them did speak Queen's English. They didn't speak our English, which we didn't realize till the very end. We got a lot of laughs from the interpreters. Like the people would laugh when the interpreter would say something. And so we thought it was us, but at the very end, they explained at my church that it wasn't that we had said something wrong. The interpreter was having trouble interpreting it because they spoke Queen's English, not American English. But we would triage about 200 a day. We had help some days with translation, which was great, and each person had to register into a health book from the government. There was, they kept meticulous track of who was there, what their vitals were, and why they were there, and it was a little interesting. But I would write down what they were there for, and then they would go get in another line and wait to be seen by a provider.
Yeah, and you did glucose.
We did glucose sticks on every person.
And Johanna did get a dirty stick while we're there. And again, we're in Africa. So the HIV used to be about 25% there in Zimbabwe. It's down to about 12%. But these people are very forthcoming with whether they have it in their little medical books that they were HIV positive. It was in there, and what their last T4 counts and everything. So she got stuck by a good person.
Well, and I was talking to my husband about this morning, actually. So instead of using like medical grade systems for checking blood sugar, we use home devices. And as she mentioned, I have 2 diabetics. So unfortunately, with 2 diabetics, I have bad habits with how I change needles on those devices because it's my kids and I don't think about it. But I kept reminding myself, I've got to stop doing that, because I would grab it in a way that I knew was going to be an issue if I didn't fix it. Anyway, I feel like God was merciful with me because the woman that I did get a dirty stick from was probably the most ideal person I could have gotten stuck by. She spoke very good English. She was able to answer my barrage of questions I had for her very quickly. And she sat in our clinic for an extra 2 to 3 hours waiting for the hospital to bring an HIV test. And so they tested her there that day. So
Instantly. So
yeah.
we got an instant notification it was negative. So. But nonetheless, she's following up. So here's just some pictures. So I didn't get a picture of the front of the church had 2 offices to the side. So me and the other doctor used those offices to the side so we'd have a little privacy room. Although these people weren't necessarily overly private. She was out in the middle doing the triage, and
I had people try to take their shirt off.
She had blisters on her breast and was ready to show. And
I had 2 benches, the bench waiting to talk to me and the one who was talking to me, and they were 3 feet apart. There was no privacy, and they had no qualms.
Yeah, they were okay with it. The lady in the middle insisted on getting her picture taken with me. Her name was Tammy. So she wanted a picture with me with my badge that said Dr. Tammy on it. And then I just wanted a picture of the lady carrying the baby on her back. So we saw all kinds of things. The most common thing that we saw was diabetes, high blood pressure, and back pain. So I was giving the same lecture over and over and over again. And so the last day we were starting to run out of medicine, starting to run out of time. And so I was just going outside and giving group talks. About every hour I'd go out and do a group talk on diabetes, a group talk on hypertension, a group talk on blood or on back pain, and taught stretches and stuff like that. And I had an interpreter, which I'll show you a picture of her, but I saw a lot of dry eyes.
Dry eyes and cataracts.
Yeah, a lot of cataracts, dry eyes. And we had a lady there that she was not an optometrist or ophthalmologist, but she had worked for years as an office manager for an ophthalmologist. So she knew how to do great eye exams and stuff. So she just kind of took over the eye clinic. And if she wanted something ordered, she just told me, and we got it ordered. But this is, a Chalasian Psi thing there that I was able to lance. I had a couple of those. And again, we gave out eyeglasses. This young lady was so proud of her eyeglasses. She was just so proud that she got them. I couldn't even tell you how many eyeglasses we handed out.
And they were saying that for someone to go get eyeglasses, to go to the optometrist, even to get reading glasses, was over $300. And so in a lot of ways, I feel like that portion of the ministry for the health stuff we did was the most impactful.
Definitely. And even the medicine, we took medicine over there, and that's a whole another talker sermon. They can get medicine. All I had to do is write down what medicines they needed, and they could go to the pharmacy and get them. $15, whatever the prescription was, is $15, which sounds fairly cheap. Some of those medicines are medicines that we have on Walmart's $4 list. So in a way, it's more expensive. Plus, if you only make $50 a month and you're paying $35 a month in rent, that only gives you $15 a month for your expenses, and that's one prescription. So that adds up. And again, another thing I saw a lady with a pelvic mass. And needed an ultrasound, which I had my ultrasound with me, but we had no electricity or internet, so I couldn't use my ultrasound. But I just wrote in her little book, pelvic mass, left pelvic mass, needs ultrasound. She came back the next day with ultrasound report for me. Cost about $20, but she had the order because it was in her little book. And anyway, and it did show she actually had two masses. She had a fibroid mass and an ovarian mass. And so I put in there, needs to see gynecologist. And so she goes somewhere and gets to see a gynecologist because I wrote that with her diagnosis. This is me. I'd gone outside and to do one of my education classes and just got a picture with the children. And again, it was just unbelievable. Did you see a single child throw a temper tantrum while I was there?
One.
Yeah.
Just one.
I did not even witness one.
And it didn't last long because Mom was on her like.
They just were amazing. I wanted to show a picture of this. They all use beach towels to put these babies on their back. And we only saw one man the whole time there that had one on his back, and he was with a woman with one on his back. So I don't know if they had twins or what, but anyway, that's it. It's like, how does that hold them up? It does. Oh, here's the eye clinic picture. So this lady in the middle, she was the one I was telling you that was phenomenal. She was not an Adventist, but so thankful to have her there at the eye clinic. This first picture is Johanna in the blue shirt doing finger stick, I think, there.
Yeah.
Speaking as we're looking. And then on the other side, was the nurse practitioner. So they don't recognize nurse practitioners there, so she could not actually see patients, although I had her come in a room a couple of times for a second opinion. I don't get to see black people rashes very often. So I had her come in, look at a couple of things just to double check me. But we put her in charge of the pharmacy so that if I did order a medicine and we were out of it, because we were running out of medicines quickly, she was given permission by me and the other doctor to change it to whatever we had available. Because the government controlled what medicines we could give. And backtracking a little bit, we were supposed to start on Sunday too. But the things did not get all done that needed to be done with the government ahead of time. And so we actually didn't get to start until Tuesday. We had to, I don't know if we got a picture of the guy that we had to get our little blessing from before we could start doing it and everything. And we had to humbly go to him and ask permission and saying, basically, it's not because you're not taking care of your people. We're just giving extra care kind of thing, because we don't want the government to look bad. Again, this is the pharmacy, and then people just waiting to be seen, patiently waiting to be seen, and Johanna checking people in. So by Friday, we were out of medicines. All those suitcases was gone of medicine. And again, as we was running out of medicine, I was given the same lecture over and over again with diabetes, hypertension, back pain. I started just doing some group lectures. One of the ladies at my church, Marianne, she was not medically person. She is wanting to go to nursing school now. But she did an excellent job interpreting, and I asked her to be my interpreter, and she did all my interpreting. I tried to get her to work with Johanna. If you want to tell that story.
So, like I said, all the people had to check in. They had to give all their vitals and their health number. And there was a nurse, 2 nurses actually, that sat from the government there. And one of the nurses would kind of translate for me if I asked her to. But when a patient was trying to tell me something, she would just say, oh, it's a hormonal issue. She very quickly decided what was wrong with them, not always what they were trying to tell me. So having her, the other girl, Marianne, there for one day was very beneficial. She would give me an exact interpretation. I would tell her what to write, and so we sped it up. We were able to see a lot more people because she was able to write in English and write what I wanted her to put on the paper for the doctors. She learned shorthand very quickly, so I was able to, give her abbreviations for what needed to be written. But the nurse got very upset, and she went to the head nurse and said, she's not medically trained, she does not need to be here. And they actually kicked her out of the clinic and wouldn't let her help. So it was a sad thing, but she was able to help with, some of the education. I did want to add in there, so diabetes and hypertension wasn't such a big issue until they said 15, 20 years.
Just in the last few years that they've taken on the standard American diet.
Fizzy drinks.
Yes, fizzy drinks, fried chicken. They like their fried chicken. So about every other block is a chicken inn with a pizza inn and a creamy inn.
Ice cream, pizza, and fried chicken.
Fried chicken, yes. And so I was going back to Marianne, who ended up interpreting for me. So she got the New Start program down pretty fast because I was giving the lecture. I gave at least 6 while we were there that she interpreted for. So she went to go visit her mom. I'm still friends with her on WhatsApp, so we communicate quite a bit. She went to visit her mom, and her mom's blood sugar and blood pressure was way out of control. And so she goes, I remembered what you said. And so I talked to my mom, and we got rid of her fried chicken and started eating more fresh fruits and legumes and such. And she went and saw her doctor that week, and her blood sugar and blood pressure were normal. So anyway, I thought that was a great testimony. And I said, share that testimony with your church, so what I said in action, right? So by Friday, we didn't get to start until Tuesday. So we were only in our medical clinic Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but we were exhausted.
We saw about 800 people and turned away at least that many, if not more. So it was really sad.
We were exhausted, though, so we were thankful when Sabbath came around again. And so that last Sabbath, we went to our individual 5 churches and did the evangelistic and our New Start talks again. And then after that, we all went to the church where the clinic was at, and we had baptisms. We had 14 baptisms that day. And then within the next week, they had 30 more baptisms, of which 8 was directly related to our medical clinic. And then a week after that, they had their district camp meeting. And we'll show you where that's at, because this is the place we visited our second Sabbath afternoon. Anyway, they had 200 baptisms during that. So Evangelism is not necessarily a need. And if anything, we need to have them come teach us what to do for evangelism, I think.
Yeah, I've got this slide on evangelism. The top half is the church I was at. There was about 80 or so, 80 to 100 adults, plus 150 children in the children's program. And then the other two pictures, just to show you the other pictures, sometimes they were all working off of generators because the electricity would go off and be off all evening. And so they worked off of generators, so they didn't necessarily have a lot of light. But people were walking 2 miles to come each evening for these. And it was supposed to start at 6, but it never got started before 6:15. And that's when everybody got there. But then I had to be finished by 7:30. We had to respect their time, and I had to be finished by 7:30. And one of the things that I thought was interesting, before we went, I talked to the head pastor on this trip, and I said, what kind of attire do we need to wear? And he said, wear whatever you want. I said, well, do I need a jacket tie? If you want. I said, personally, I never wear one. And I said, okay. Well, I looked online and saw some of their pastors preaching. They all had jackets and ties, so I brought four ties and a couple shirts and some jackets just in case. And so we got there and talked to the head pastor, and he said, if you're going to get in the pulpit, you have to wear a tie and a jacket. Well, out of the 5 speakers, there was one that had ties but no jacket, and another one had a jacket and no ties. So there was some swapping going along to make sure they had a jacket and a tie. Now, if you get up in the pulpit, they expected you to dress like this. Now, if you were one that got prone to be hot, you could ask the congregation, do I have your permission to take off my jacket? Otherwise, this is what they expected.
It was wintertime. We didn't get hot, though.
No. So on the left, they started with singing. That was the singing choral group that led the congregation singing. The middle happened to be the one in my group that did the health talk. And then that's me with my interpreter. And he was very helpful, and he was very good. As soon as I paused, he was speaking. And when he got done speaking, I would speak, so that we were able to get done by 7:30 each night. Here we have 2 pictures. The one on the left, that gentleman is the lead pastor of the area that helped coordinate. His name is JP. They call him JP. He is a pastor, been their pastor for many years. When I left him one of my favorite ties. I gave him a gift because they were so kind. The guy on the right with me, he's the head elder of the Rojaco Church. He was very instrumental. He was also a part of our transportation team. And this was his son who was there.
Did you ask him what he wanted to be when he grew up, his son?
I didn't ask his son.
So my driver's daughter, I don't know if there's a picture in there with her, she was 7, and she wanted to be a lawyer. So I got a picture with her so I could send it to my daughter who is a lawyer and say, future lawyer. But these children all had big dreams. I mean, you ask them what they wanted to be, it was not like a convenience store operator or trash truck driver. I mean, and not that there's anything wrong with those. I mean, these kids wanted to be engineers, they wanted to be lawyers, they wanted to be doctors, computer people, whatever. And now whether they accomplish it or not, but at least they have that dream. You ask a high schooler here today what they want to be, they can be a senior in high school and have no clue.
And then we had other people that just wanted to meet the evangelist and have their picture taken. So again, these are some of the scenes from the different evangelistic meetings. This is what the others outside of the buildings had when they went to meet. Either a tent or a metal roof or something, and everything was run off of generator.
I had the nice church. We had electricity. I even had PowerPoint at my church, so I was spoiled.
She was spoiled.
My church had a generator that ran everything because the power would go off just as we arrived, and they'd start up the generator. So I could have, but they had no projection system in my church.
Now, having said that, my church ran off generator for the tent in the back for the kids for vacation Bible school. So
there was a baptismal service. She said there was 14. 6 of them happened to be from the district I was in, which, nothing about my skill as a preacher, but it's about their work
Free.
beforehand, because all these people had Bible studies, maybe had been studying Bible for months before they came here, and then this was just the culmination. And one of the highlights of the trip was we met the chief of the district. Ospingo district. His great-great-great-grandfather was the last king before British rule. And when British came in, they didn't want a king there because they already had a queen in England or a king in England. So they made them chiefs and broke up the whole area into multiple sections. But he was the only lineage of the original of the king in the king's line. And so we got to meet them.
And he's Adventist.
He's Adventist.
And beyond meeting him,
Then we went to the Great Zimbabwe, and being king, he was our tour guide for the Great Zimbabwe.
South.
We're at the bottom, it's up there. I don't know how many steps there was, but it was a trek, and I'm sure Tammy would say that you and Johanna, they were a little bit glad to see the top.
oh, it was a nice trip.
It was-
Yeah.
yeah,
It
it was
wasn't
really
horrible
pretty.
though, but yeah. But we're in pretty good shape. I was in a long skirt. That was my hardest part because I tried to still respect the Sabbath, so I stayed in a skirt and had to kind of hold it up going up the stairs.
So there's some of the pathway, one of the pathways up. This is a pathway between a rock and a wall.
So now you're getting into the king's
This is
headquarters.
King's quarters.
Yeah.
And then everything done with dry, those are all, on the right, those are all dry stack rocks. And he's explaining things to us, and the little hut where he would meet with people there in the place that they were at.
So that was like the Oval Office for the king, that hut thing.
This is down below. This picture on the left is the queen's quarters. This is the queen and all the other.
200 wives.
It could have up to 200 wives in this complex. And this is just, this picture in the middle just to show those are dry stack rocks and how close they were able to get them. And they stacked up these buildings.
And they're still standing to this day. So they're not cemented in. They're just dry stacked
And
rocks.
the first drawing or picture they have of it is back in the 1600s. And so, I mean, it's pretty impressive. It's been there a long time.
It's been there before that.
Yes, but
because
this is
its history goes back before the crucifixion of Christ.
Yeah.
Because that cylinder on the right, they said near that they could hear the voice of God, and it stopped about 2,000 years ago. Yeah. When we now had access to God
And
directly.
the queen was the original wife, and she's the one that picked the other 200. Just FYI.
This is some of the native buildings, what they might have looked like at the time. And then we're on the road again. We're heading, here we go. This is the main highway up to Victoria Falls.
15 hours, no bathrooms. So our initial stop, they stopped at the side of the road so the men could go to the bathroom. I'm like, this is an Ozark country girl. She's going to the bathroom too. And I had a few other women follow suit with me. But
If you notice, he was on the right. They drive on the left, but the right was smoother. So we make it to Victoria Falls area, and then we go on safari the next day.
that was a full day. So we started with a safari.
So here's some of the animals we see. There's where the
Very
vehicles we're in. Some more of the animals.
It was very cold, and Johanna wanted to sit in front.
We had a better view. We may have froze, but we had a better view.
Then we made it to Victoria Falls. If you've never seen Victoria Falls, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's massive.
It's the widest falls in the world. And we only got to see half of it because the other half is in Zambia.
This is a view from a helicopter somebody submitted. That is a big fall. It makes Niagara Falls look kind of narrow and compact. And then we did have some fun time.
Oh, thanks.
This is just outside of Victoria Falls. They pulled us in to perform with them. But you didn't get a picture of me and the chief. So me and the chief actually danced at the village,
I didn't get
right?
that one. I didn't get that one.
And the village stayed open because we got there really late Sabbath, and they stayed open Sabbath afternoon. They were closing up, and the chief yelled at them, "Stay open, we're coming," basically in their language. And they stayed open, so it was after dark that we were at that village at Great Zimbabwe.
So there was some fun times. And then we had a sunset cruise.
I think this was my favorite.
Yeah.
I love this.
We saw a few hippopotamus and a crocodile. There was quite a few on there, quite a few boats out there on the Zambezi River.
This lady, this black lady here in the middle, she was from France, just traveling the world on her own.
Yeah.
Johanna and I meet the neatest people.
That
Yeah.
left picture in the middle.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we waited for sunset. Beautiful out there.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Beautiful out there. Then we went to dinner and had dinner one last time in Victoria Falls. Next morning, up bright and early, we left for
Another 17 hours on great highways.
That's the wonderful road we were on.
So when we first got to Harare, we dropped some people off at the airport. So we lost a part of our crew then. They had to fly back, but the rest of us had another day and a half in Harare. So we got one day of just getting to shop and explore Harare. We're downtown Harare. Before we went to the Adventist Medical Clinic, we actually went shopping, kind of a flea market type place. And there were several vendors. But as we were talking to one of the vendors, of course, we're the only white people there. So everybody wants to know who we are, why we're there and stuff. And they just outright asked if we were Adventists as being missionaries. And we said yes. And one of the lady vendors went to Adventist schools and stuff. And she says she doesn't actively attend a church. She goes, but when I do go to church, I go to the Adventist church and stuff. So we was able to witness some with her. And then when we were just walking, and this was just literally around the corner from our hotel, we saw this Adventist medical clinic. Now, part of the reason some of our stuff wasn't well organized in Mashvigo was because the Zimbabwe leaders did not want us going to Mashvigo. They wanted us to be staying in Harare. So anyway, that's part of the backstory. But this Adventist Medical Center, we went in and just introduced who we were and stuff, and they gave us a little tour of their clinic. Very, very simple clinic. This is the director and the nurse there, and some of their rooms. They did have an ultrasound in the room. They did do some procedures. This thing on the far right is an old scale to like weigh a baby on. It looks like a fish scale, but that's the old type scale. But they did do ultrasounds there. They did some treatments like IUDs and things like that there at the clinic, etc. And they want us to come back. In fact, the lady got my name and numbers and asking me when I will come back. So I am wanting to go back to Zimbabwe next September. I don't want to go in the wintertime. So God willing, with my husband and everything, if I can slip away, I'd like to go back in September. I'm just going to do health education classes, but I'll probably, because I almost have to fly in and out of Harare, spend a day or two in the clinic there and help them in Harare too. Do you have something else to say on that clinic? And this was our whole group.
This is the group. This is what we look like in our blue shirts. This is the ones that were there.
This was our last Sabbath.
2/3 are Adventists, the other third were not. Mm-hmm. But they were all impressed with the people there. The people were very, very friendly in Zimbabwe.
Extremely. And, they always told us to stay together in groups of 2, to be safe, and yada, yada, yada. But the town shuts down at dark. It just shuts down. But during the day, I felt very safe. We did stay in our group of 2 at least, if not more, but I wouldn't have minded going out by myself, really.
I don't know.
Harare maybe a little more than Mashvigo.
There was that one time we were down at the market, and there was a few drunk gentlemen getting off of a bus, and they were demanding money, and so
But for the most part, people were very nice, very respectful, and they knew who Seventh-day Adventists were. I mean, when you told them, Seventh-day, SDAs, yeah, I know, so very, very respectful on that. But talking about being in the city when we were in Harare, so Johanna's looking up. We're sitting there talking. Oh, she's actually unloading. And we hear gunfire. We're in the inner city, right? So it's like being in Chicago, and we hear bing, 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 bing. Johanna goes to the window. Opens up. What's going on?
We were on the 5th floor.
I don't think you're supposed to do that, Johanna. You're supposed to be hitting the floor right now. Anyway, it was great. I highly recommend doing a mission trip if you get a chance. If you want to join me in September to do health talks, and I'm going to, basically, again, hypertension, diabetes, wound care, dry skin's a big deal there, big because it's so dry, and back pain, stretching exercises. So if there's a massage therapist out there or exercise therapist that might want to go with me, let me know. And then the next trip do you have the handout for that?
Yep, well, not a handout.
So the same group is organizing in May a trip to Cuba, which I think I'm going to try to go again, God willing. I don't know what I'm doing next week with my husband and everything.
We'll hang this out in the bulletin board. So
Cuba is a communist country, but apparently, from everybody I've talked to, it is very Adventist. They're very Adventist friendly, and the Adventists have made a good reputation there. And as long as we do what we do in our church, they will let us do any medical or church education in the church building itself. So
that's pretty much it. And I learned a lot more from them, especially the elders. I showed you the picture of the head elder. Because his pastor has 8 churches, he was on the ball, making sure that all of his other elders were there, ready to serve, assigned them their positions, what they were to do. Every night we had a different group of elders, but he was always there, making sure that everybody was doing their job. So
they wanted to serve. I mean, it was not a burden to them. Yeah. And so for display down here, Johanna, show your one. This kind of has a story behind it.
So anybody in the health profession, nurses especially, there is an award called a Daisy Award. And as part of that, you are given a statue. And it is called Healing Hands. And there's a couple of the nurses, like my son-in-law has gotten one, and there's a story that they talked about, and I remembered hearing it when we were in Zimbabwe, that they are made by the Majibingo people in Zimbabwe. Shona people.
Our tribe, the Shona tribe.
The Shona tribe. And so I had remembered hearing that, and I was like, when we were shopping, there was miniature ones, 2 inches, and then a couple of the bigger ones. This is what they would hand out to the nurses here in America. So they buy these for this award from the people of Zimbabwe that we were there ministering to, which I thought was pretty cool. We ended up buying the small ones for all the nurses in our clinic to kind of say, for all the times that you give great care and don't get a thank you. But it is an award that you have to be nominated by a patient for. So it's a really neat award, and I just thought it was really neat that we were there taking care of the people.
So if you ever are in a hospital or whatever and can nominate a good nurse for the Daisy Award, just remember that. And if you're welcome to come up afterwards. Johanna bought this Noah's Ark. It's handcrafted there by the Shona people. And
there's some like hair clips that are made out of bones and stuff, and they're carved on, and it's just, or not bones, but horns anyway. It's really neat stuff.
Sorry, we just went over, but there's still didn't say all we wanted to say.
And I don't know if I told you at the beginning, but I went through 3,000 pictures just to narrow it down to these, and I missed several things that Tammy talked about that we had pictures for, but I knew we didn't have, that you guys wouldn't stay here till 2 o'clock this afternoon, so let's stay.